Donald Trump, as we talked about, was left isolated at the end of the transactions there in the G20 summit in Hamburg. He was the only man standing who refused to get on board with the Paris Climate Agreement. Where does this leave him?
It does leave him obviously somewhat isolated, and people already knew that going into the summit, but that they did manage to paper over some of those cracks and put it down in a joint communique itself suggests that there was a certain degree of meeting of minds. We did not end up with a chairman's statement on that issue. We had a joint communique. So yes, the US has been isolated, but that is not a surprise. But they did manage to have some degree, I would say, of basic consensus to move forward. Ultimately, however, on the Paris Agreement, it'll come down to implementation, and the other parties will need to do the implementation. For many years, the G20 had talked about they're going to implement the Doha trade round negotiations, and they never got down to doing that. So ultimately, the proof of the pudding will be in implementation.
Tell us a little bit more about the G20's possible impact on the Asia-Pacific region.
It's important. The Asia-Pacific region, as I said, is the growth center of the world. The drivers of growth are to remain open, economically open as much, and politically open and interdependent as much as possible. Asia would not want that the rest of the world move towards a more isolationist platform or to a more protectionist platform, because it has, I would say, still decades of growth potential inherent in Asia. And it needs outside sources of growth also to help grow faster. So to the extent, not just for China, but for the rest of the Asia-Pacific, if we can have an open global system and an open international financial and trading system, it can only be to its benefit.